The image of the beast. Lots of opinions, lots of interesting and good ideas. But how do they line up with Scripture? This is Off the Cuff, and I'm Steve from TorahFamily.org. Let's talk about it. Over the years, there's been a lot of talk about the number of the beast. With each new form of technology that came out, a new wave of teachings would come out saying how that would be the mark of the beast. From Social Security numbers to credit cards, ISBN numbers, and microchips, to electronic tattoos, along with so much more. And now, in recent years, the topic of the image of the beast is getting more and more attention since AI has come on the scene. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand where they're coming from. But I'm here to tell you right now, I believe the image of the beast will truly be the Ark of the Covenant. Now, that may sound silly to you right now, but by the end of this short teaching, you'll see where we're coming from. We need to remember, Yeshua told us the end times would be all about deception, but not just deception. We're talking about a powerful deception that would deceive the very elect, if that were possible. Matthew 24, verse 24. For false Christs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and miracles to deceive even the elect, if that were possible. So it's not about deceiving the world. No, it's about a time of deception that could deceive the elect. The enemy already has the world. His focus is on deceiving the elect. Knowing this deception could deceive the elect, do you really believe a talking droid through AI is going to deceive the elect? If the deception is so powerful that it could deceive the elect, that would mean it has to look like it's truly and legitimately from God, Yahweh. Otherwise, the elect couldn't be deceived. Let's go to Revelation 13 and see what we find. Starting at verse 11. Then I saw another beast coming out of the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb, but he spoke like a dragon. He exercised all the authority of the first beast on his behalf, and made the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose fatal wound had been healed. And he performed great and miraculous signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to earth in full view of men. Because of the signs he was given power to do on behalf of the first beast, he deceived the inhabitants of the earth. He ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast, who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. He was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that it could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. We must remember, the Bible is a Hebrew book written by Hebrews. Thus, to understand it, you must know biblical Hebrew history. So let's briefly break down a few of these verses here in Revelation 13 from a Hebraic perspective. First, we see the second beast comes out of the land and has 2 horns like a lamb, but spoke like a dragon. Please remember, the first beast came out of the sea and has 10 horns. One who studies biblical history will remember how Israel was divided into 2 kingdoms. The northern kingdom had 10 tribes, and the southern kingdom had 2. We also know the northern kingdom never returned to the land after their Assyrian captivity. They assembled into the nations throughout the world. Thus, the 10 horns come from the sea, representing the nations of the world. The southern kingdom of 2 tribes are seen in the second beast, the lamb with 2 horns who comes from the land. He comes as a lamb, but speaks as a dragon, showing he looks the part, but he does the will of the dragon, that ancient serpent called the devil. This should quickly remind us of what Yeshua said in John chapter 8 to the Pharisees. John 8:44. You belong to your father the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desire. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth. for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar, and the father of lies. Lies. Deception. So Satan is their father, thus making that the synagogue of Satan. And we see it will be back in action here in Revelation 13 for the end times. But who was the formal leader of that synagogue in Yeshua's day? It was the high priest, showing precedence for the false prophet to literally be the high priest in the end times. This shouldn't surprise us because of what we see in verse 13. It reads, "And he performed great and miraculous signs, even causing fire to come down from heaven to earth in full view of men." Now, biblically speaking, when has this happened before by way of a priestly service? 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 1. When Solomon finished praying, fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifices, and the glory of Yahweh filled the temple. The priests could not enter the temple of Yahweh because the glory of Yahweh filled it. So what's seen in Revelation 13 by this man has happened before. He'll call fire down from heaven in full view of men, the exact same way as seen here when Solomon was king. And it will deceive all. Everything will look just as it did before. Thus, the very elect could be deceived, if that were possible. Then, verse 14 shows this man sets up an image. The word here is icon, simply meaning image of or representation of. What was the representative of Yahweh in the tent of meeting and stone temple? It was the Ark of the Covenant. In fact, the Ark was literally named Yahweh, seen here in 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 2, and 1 Chronicles chapter 13, verse 6. Thus, the false prophet will set up the Ark of the Covenant. We then see in verse 15 that he was given power to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that it could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image be killed. This is where many people will say it can't be the Ark of the Covenant, but has to be something to do with AI. But believe it or not, the scriptures show us the voice of Yahweh came from the Ark of the Covenant before. Please consider what we read in the book of Numbers. Numbers chapter 7, verse 89. When Moses entered the tent of meeting to speak with Yahweh, he heard the voice speaking to him from between the two cherubim above the atonement cover on the Ark of the Testimony, and he spoke with him. So right here, Yahweh's voice came from the Ark of the Covenant. Yahweh's voice came from the representative of Yahweh, from the icon. Thus, the false prophet makes the image, the Ark of the Covenant, speak just like it did in the past. Thus, it looks like the real deal. Many will believe it's the voice of Yahweh coming from the Ark. Thus, the very elect could be deceived if that were possible. And as noted earlier, 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 2 and 1 Chronicles 13, 6 shows the presence of Yahweh rested between the cherubim on top of the ark. So when the false prophet, the high priest, makes the ark speak, the assumed belief will be that it's the presence of Yahweh resting there again, just as it did before. Thus, the very elect could be deceived. The world will believe they're following the one true God of the Bible because it's all looking like it's straight out of the Bible. Some will say you need the stone temple for the ark, but that's not true. Please see our teaching, The Return of the Tent. In fact, we believe the tabernacle will be what gets set up first for the Ark of the Covenant, and that will be what ushers in the rebuilding of the temple. But did you know, even the Quran teaches that the Ark of the Covenant will come out and will be a sign for them to believe. From the Quran 2:248, their prophet said to them, "The sign of his kingship is that the ark will come to you, containing serenity from your Lord, and certain relics left by the families of Musa and Harun, that's Moses and Aaron. It will be borne by angels. There is a sign for you in that, if you believe. Another English translation puts it this way: And their prophet said unto them, Lo, the token of his kingdom is that there shall come unto you the ark wherein is peace of reassurance from your Lord, and a remnant of that which the house of Moses and the house of Aaron left behind, the angels bearing it. Lo, herein shall be a token for you if, in truth, ye are believers. So even Islamic writings point to the ark coming out, and they promise peace because of it. Some believe much of Islam holds that they will be the ones to find it and bring it out. So, when the modern state of Israel finds it and brings it out, well, that will be one more reason why we see Jerusalem getting surrounded, as prophesied by Ezekiel and referenced by Yeshua. Once the dust settles from the war that happens at the end of that 40-day siege, the war that almost completely wipes out the modern state of Israel, the Antichrist will bring unity to all the survivors on both sides. He'll use references like this one from the Quran to bring the remaining survivors of Islam under his rule. I can easily see when the Antichrist comes out, he'll say, You Christians, you were right on these points here, but you were wrong on these. You Muslims, you were right on these points here, but you were wrong on these over here. You Jews, you were right on these points here, but you were wrong on these points over here. I believe the Abraham Accords will find their fulfillment in the Antichrist. He's going to bring unity amongst them all through those existing accords. But that will happen after the invasion. And then, when it appears that Yahweh answers him by fire under the work of the high priest, all will follow his lead as the appointed Messiah. Don't get me wrong. I know AI is very powerful and only growing more powerful every day. And I'm not saying AI won't play a role in the end times. I believe it will. Just not in the capacity for the image of the beast. In order for the very elect to be deceived, it has to look historically biblical. The Antichrist and false prophet is going to make everything look like it's from Yahweh, from God. So, when we see the Ark of the Covenant come out, and the original tent of meeting just as it was under Moses, please know and understand it's all about to go down. If you found this teaching to be of interest, we believe you'll find these other teachings of interest as well. The abomination of desolation, what is the idol of jealousy, and beware of the coming sacrifices. They're linked below. Well, that's all I have. Think about it. Pray about it. But more than anything, be a doer of the word and not a hearer only. Until next time, Shalom.